When we talk about transformation, real transformation, it doesn't begin in some grand, cinematic moment. It begins in something as ordinary, as simple as the morning. The way you wake up, the first thoughts that enter your mind, the first words that leave your tongue, these are not trivial details. They are reflections of your inner state. The morning, in many ways, is a mirror of your soul. Before the world begins to demand your attention, before the chaos of life takes hold, there is that sacred window, quiet, unfiltered, honest. And how you show up in that window says a great deal about who you truly are. When the Prophet made the dua, O Allah, bless my nation in their early hours, he was not merely advising productivity or encouraging people to wake up early. He was revealing a spiritual secret that divine blessing, barakah, descends in those early moments. The hours after Fajr are not like the hours after noon or night. They carry a unique energy, a serenity that no other time possesses. Why? Because the world is still, distractions are minimal, and the soul, if given the chance, can actually hear itself. It's in this silence that the believer reconnects with Allah, with purpose, with gratitude. Think about it, the way you wake up each day reveals what occupies your heart. Some people rise restless, immediately reaching for their phone, scrolling through messages, consumed by the world before they've even spoken to their creator. Others rise calmly, their first words Alhamdulillah aladhiyahiyana, praise be to Allah who gave us life after causing us to die. Two people wake up at the same time, but their mornings are worlds apart. One's soul awakens, the other merely opens his eyes. Psychologists today talk a great deal about morning routines and mindset, but Islam taught us this over 400 years ago. The concept of beginning your day with hikr, with salah, with stillness, is not just spiritual, it's deeply psychological. Because the morning is when your subconscious mind is most open, most impressionable. What you feed it in that moment determines the emotional flavor of your day. If the first thing you consume is noise, notifications, anxiety, distraction, your heart becomes restless. But if your first act is remembrance, reflection, and gratitude, then your day is anchored in meaning. The truth is, your morning attitude doesn't just shape your schedule, it shapes your destiny. A person who constantly begins their day in heedlessness will eventually drift through life in heedlessness. But a person who begins their day consciously, intentionally, in remembrance of Allah, will find that their entire existence aligns with that consciousness. You cannot live a purposeful life if you begin every day in spiritual chaos. Change doesn't begin at noon, it begins the moment you open your eyes. And so, every morning becomes a test not of how early you wake up, but of how awake your heart truly is. The one who values those early hours values their time, and the one who values their time values their life. Imagine beginning each morning as if Allah has given you a new chance, because that's exactly what He has. Each dawn is a silent declaration. I am not done with you yet. There is more for you to become. If your mornings are filled with distraction, your days will be filled with confusion. But if your mornings begin with remembrance, your days will be filled with direction. The first few minutes of your day are like the first lines of a book. They set the tone for everything that follows. So, start each morning by asking yourself, what does my morning say about my soul? Because how you treat the morning is how you treat life itself. And when you learn to greet the dawn with purpose, gratitude, and remembrance, you don't just change your day, you begin transforming your destiny. If you think about it carefully, every day that begins is not just another sunrise, it's another opportunity from Allah. Another blank page on which your destiny can be rewritten. And what writes that page is not luck, not chance, but intention. The moment you wake up, before your feet even touch the ground, before you check your phone or speak to anyone, that is when your destiny begins to take shape for the day. The morning is not simply the start of your physical activity, It is the renewal of your spiritual purpose. The Prophet taught us that actions are judged by intentions. We often quote this hadith, but do we truly live by it each morning? Because if every action is judged by intention, then every day must begin with one. Your morning intention is like setting the direction of a compass. If it's even slightly off by the end of the day, you may find yourself far away from where you intended to be. That's the power of niyyah. It defines the trajectory of your time, your energy, and your heart. A person who wakes up with no clear purpose is like a traveler walking without a destination. They might move, but they're not progressing. Their steps don't lead anywhere meaningful, but the one who begins the day with clarity: today I will live for Allah, I will serve, I will grow, I will strive to be better than yesterday, that person moves with intention and therefore with direction. And when you walk with direction, even small steps carry you toward greatness. This is something our tradition understood deeply. When you wake up, you're encouraged to say Alhamdulillah aladhi ahiona, gratitude. Then you perform wudu purification, then Fajr connection, then dhikr remembrance. Notice the sequence: awareness, cleansing, focus, and remembrance. That's not just a ritual, it's a spiritual reset. Each act carries a psychological wisdom. It's Allah training you every single morning to begin your day consciously, to reorient your heart toward what truly matters before you step into the noise of the world. Now, think about how many people wake up and immediately scroll through social media, flooded with the lives of others before they've even looked inward. Their first thought is comparison, not gratitude; distraction, not direction. How can such a morning lead to a fulfilling day? The modern world teaches us to begin our mornings externally with stimulation and information. Islam teaches us to begin our mornings internally with intention and reflection. That difference is not small. It is the difference between being reactive and being purposeful, between drifting through life and directing your life. And here's the psychological truth: whatever occupies your mind in the first few moments of waking becomes the emotional and mental filter through which you experience your day. If your first thought is anxiety, you'll find reasons to be anxious. If your first thought is gratitude, you'll find blessings to appreciate. The morning sets your mental narrative, and that narrative shapes your entire experience of the world. That's why believers begin their day with words of remembrance, because those words are not mere rituals, they're cognitive anchors. They align your mind and your heart with divine purpose. Every morning is, in a sense, a new creation. Allah did not have to wake you up, He chose to. When your eyes open after sleep, you've been given another chance to continue your story. That realization alone should ignite intention. You might not control everything that happens in your day, but you can control the purpose with which you enter it. And when that purpose is sincere, Allah blesses the journey no matter where it leads. So when you wake up, ask yourself simple but profound questions. Why has Allah allowed me to live another day? What am I meant to learn, to serve, to improve? How can I make today a reflection of gratitude for yesterday and preparation for eternity? Those questions reframe your entire mindset. They turn your morning into a mission. Even mundane tasks, going to work, studying, caring for family, when performed with the right intention, become acts of worship. When you say, Ya Allah, I seek your pleasure in whatever I do today, you transform ordinary moments into sacred opportunities. The Prophet said that even feeding your family or smiling at someone can become an act of worship when the intention is right. That's how powerful niyyah is. It's not just what you do that matters, it's why you do it. We often wait for big moments to change our lives: a new job, a new city, a new chapter. But in truth, your destiny shifts in those quiet, unseen moments at dawn, when you decide what kind of person you will be that day. If you win that moment, you win the day. And if you win enough mornings, you begin to win your life. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes, don't rush into the world. Pause, breathe, Remember who gave you another chance. Make your intention pure and purposeful, because that single act, that conscious moment of aligning your heart with Allah, could be the very thing that transforms not just your day, but your destiny. There's something remarkable about the stillness of dawn. Before the world awakens, before the noise begins, there exists a sacred calm, a time so pure that Allah himself swears by it in the Quran, by the dawn and by the 10 nights, Al-Fajr 89, 1-2. That quiet hour carries a spiritual weight unmatched by any other part of the day. It is no coincidence that the prayer of Fajr is called witnessed. Witnessed by the angels, witnessed by creation itself, and, if the believer is attentive, witnessed by their own soul. Because it is in those early hours that the discipline of devotion truly tests and transforms a person. Discipline is not merely about forcing yourself to do difficult things. In Islam, discipline is a form of sincerity. It's proof that your faith is not just an emotion, but a commitment. Anyone can feel inspired when the heart is moved, but true transformation happens when you act with consistency. Even when you don't feel inspired. The ability to rise before the sun, to make wudu when the world is asleep, to pray when comfort calls you back to bed, that is not simply an act of ritual, it is an act of identity. Each time you do it, you affirm who you are and who you want to become. Modern psychology talks a lot about habits and morning routines. People wake up early to meditate, journal, or exercise, seeking structure and focus. But the believer's morning routine was designed by Allah himself. The act of Fajr is not only spiritual, it is deeply psychological. It trains the nafs, the lower self, to submit to something higher. It disciplines the ego that constantly seeks comfort and ease. It reminds the heart that mastery over life begins with mastery over the self. When you rise for Fajr, you are not just waking your body, you are awakening your soul. You are telling yourself, I will not be ruled by sleep, laziness, or distraction. I will rise because my Lord has called me. That is an act of spiritual defiance against the weakness of the human self. It's the same principle behind every great achievement, whether spiritual or worldly. Those who achieve greatness in any field are those who have learned to act with discipline when others act with impulse. They do what must be done even when it's inconvenient. Now imagine applying that same principle not just to Fajr, but to your entire morning. A believer who begins their day with intentional devotion with Quran, with dhikr, with reflection begins the day on a higher frequency. Their mind is calm, their soul is centered, and their priorities are aligned. That kind of start gives clarity to every decision that follows. It's why you'll find that people who establish discipline in their mornings tend to experience barakah throughout their day. It's not magic, it's alignment. You can't expect the day to be peaceful if your morning was chaotic. You can't expect your destiny to be guided if your dawn was neglected. And yes, it's difficult. Waking up early isn't easy. But that's precisely the point. Transformation never happens in comfort. It happens when you push against resistance, spiritual resistance, emotional resistance, physical resistance. Allah could have made worship effortless, but he designed it in such a way that it tests your will. Because the test refines you, the struggle builds sincerity, the effort purifies intention, and the one who conquers their mornings gradually conquers their life. Think of the discipline of early devotion as the foundation of every other virtue. If you can wake when it's hardest, you can be patient when tested, steadfast when tempted, and grateful when blessed. Because the same strength that lifts you from bed at dawn is the strength that keeps you firm in faith when life challenges you. The morning is not just a ritual, it's training. It prepares you for the unseen tests that will unfold throughout the day. There's also a psychological beauty here. When you begin your day with devotion, you start from a place of victory. You've already conquered something before the world even wakes. That gives you momentum, a quiet confidence that no matter what the day brings, you've already begun it in obedience, in clarity, and in connection with your Creator. But when you neglect the morning, when you trade that sacred time for a few more moments of sleep, you may win comfort, but you lose clarity. You start your day already behind, spiritually and mentally. And over time, that neglect accumulates. It doesn't just affect your day, it dulls your spirit. So, discipline in the morning is not just about being productive, it's about being present. It's about choosing your higher self over your lower desires. It's about saying, my time belongs to Allah before it belongs to the world. That attitude transforms how you think, how you work, and ultimately, how you live. Each morning is a battlefield between ease and effort, between distraction and devotion. And every time you rise for Allah, you win a victory that no one sees but He records. Those quiet victories at dawn are what build destinies. Because in truth, whoever masters their mornings masters their life, and whoever masters their life, by Allah's mercy, transforms their destiny. Destiny is not something that unfolds in one grand dramatic moment. It's not written in a single decision, nor determined by one event. Destiny is shaped quietly in the details, in the patterns, in the small choices we repeat every single day. And nothing reveals that truth more clearly than the morning. Because how you begin your day doesn't just influence the hours that follow. It sets in motion the spiritual rhythm of your life. The morning is the seed, and destiny is the harvest. If your mornings are scattered, unfocused, and heedless, then your life will mirror that chaos. But if your mornings are rooted in intention, discipline, and remembrance, then over time, your life begins to align with purpose, with clarity, and with divine direction. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, designed time itself as a test of consistency. He did not make transformation an overnight event. He made it a gradual process, a slow unfolding. The Quran reminds us that indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. 13:11 And what is within the self begins to change not through occasional bursts of inspiration, but through daily, deliberate effort, often in the most ordinary moments. That's why the morning carries such significance. It is the first opportunity you have each day to declare who you are and what you live for. The believer who begins each morning with purpose, who wakes up for Fajr, who starts with Hikr, who sets intentions before actions, begins the day in harmony with their Creator. That harmony creates a ripple effect. The calmness you feel after prayer influences how you speak, how you react, how you work. You treat people differently. You make decisions with more wisdom. You carry yourself with more patience and less ego. And those subtle shifts, repeated over time, shape not only your character but your destiny. It's easy to underestimate the power of consistency. We often think change requires something dramatic, a lie, faltering event, a sudden burst of motivation. But in reality, transformation is built on what you do consistently, not what you do occasionally. The morning is your daily proving ground. Every sunrise asks the same question: will you rise with it? Or will you let the world pull you into distraction before your soul even awakens? Consider how every great destiny, every prophet, scholar, or visionary was built on this principle of consistency. The prophet, even when facing immense hardship, never abandoned the discipline of his mornings. He would begin with prayer, with reflection, with intention. His mornings were not rushed, they were rooted. And from that rootedness came clarity, the kind of clarity that allows a person to change the world. When your morning begins in remembrance of Allah, your heart becomes like a compass, steady, directed, resistant to confusion. But when your morning begins in heedlessness, you lose that inner direction. You may move fast, but without purpose. You may work hard, but without peace. And that's one of the greatest tragedies of our modern age. People are busier than ever, but emptier than ever. The noise of life drowns out the voice of the soul. The believer, however, learns to anchor themselves each morning before stepping into the noise. Psychologically, this consistency rewires the mind. Neuroscientists speak of neural pathways as habits of thought and behavior that strengthen through repetition. Every morning that you begin with intention and devotion, you are reinforcing pathways of discipline, gratitude, and calm. You are training your brain to associate the dawn with purpose instead of chaos, and over time that becomes your default state. You no longer fight to find focus. Focus becomes your natural starting point. You no longer struggle to feel gratitude. Gratitude becomes your emotional home. This is how a person's internal world begins to shift, not through one act, but through a pattern of devotion repeated over and over. Spiritually, the same truth applies. The Prophet said, the most beloved deeds to Allah are those that are consistent, even if small. Notice not the most dramatic, not the longest, but the most consistent. Because Allah values sincerity over spectacle. He values the heart that shows up every morning, even tired, even imperfect, but sincere. Those small, unseen acts of devotion, the quiet fajr, the whispered dua, the few minutes of Quran, they accumulate. Each morning spent in remembrance builds your spiritual identity brick by brick until one day, without realizing it, you become the person you once prayed to be. And that's the beauty of how Allah writes destiny. He doesn't write it in one stroke. He writes it in chapters through your effort, your patience, your persistence. The morning is where each new chapter begins, and when you honor those early hours with sincerity, Allah places barakah in your time, in your work, in your relationships. You begin to notice that what others achieve with exhaustion, you achieve with peace. What others chase restlessly, you attract effortlessly. Because the one who gives Allah the first moments of the day finds that Allah blesses all the moments that follow. So when we say the morning attitude that transforms destiny, we're not talking about motivation or self-help slogans. We're talking about a spiritual law of life that your mornings are a reflection of your priorities, and your priorities determine your path. If you want a life filled with purpose, begin with purposeful mornings. If you want a destiny guided by divine light, wake under that light before the sun even rises. Every dawn is an invitation. Allah calls out to you before the world does. He gives you a new page, a new chance, a new direction. Don't waste it scrolling through the noise of others when you could be writing your own story with Him. Because the truth is simple, the person who masters their mornings doesn't just manage time better. They live differently. They move with calm conviction, they speak with clarity, and they walk with divine direction. And when you live like that, when every morning begins with Allah, your destiny can only move toward light. So ask yourself tomorrow at dawn, will I rise with the world, or will I rise with purpose? Because that choice, made again and again, is the difference between a life of reaction and a life of transformation. And it is in that quiet, sacred choice, repeated each morning, that destiny itself begins to change.